Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Yoli Building in Public. I'm building Borderless Self. You can check it out at borderlessself.com. And in this week's episode, I am talking about advertising and just taking you through an example of some UGC ads that I've created using Higgsfield. And then I'm going to show you a number of channels that I've been running ads in just to figure out what the range of CPC, cost per click, will be for my segment and targeting my target audience in a number of channels. So there's 4 channels that I've been running experiments in, and primarily just to understand what's the average cost per click am I looking at. And the reason why I'm focused on that is because I understand that there's a bunch of work that has to happen to optimize landing pages, optimize the user journey, and ultimately drive folks to conversions and drive revenue. And that is going to take a number of steps. What I want to understand is what is the range in terms of costs that I'm looking at? What is the baseline that I'm starting from? And then I'll know, okay, what budget to allocate as I run ads over a longer period of time and the algorithms start to improve. And as I work on optimizing the landing pages, the journey gets easier. But I'm starting at the top of the funnel. Can I get the attention of a user for the concept, get them to click, and how much will that cost me? So that is all I am looking at for those who are pros out there. That's all I'm looking at. And I used to run an accelerator in Seattle about, I want to say maybe now 10 years ago, and using the lean startup method. One of the things you would do to figure out whether your concept is even worth focusing on building is to run some ads using a small budget, drive people to a landing page to see whether you can actually get people interested in the concept and before you even build your MVP. And it's a good way to get a gauge of whether there is any there, right? Let me just share with you some examples of ads, AI ads I've created using Higgsfield.
Packing to move and your documents are everywhere? I use Borderlessself to keep passports, visas, and checklists in one place, and it even scores how move ready you are. Pick a country, see what's missing, and go. Packing to move and your documents are everywhere? I use Borderlessself to keep passports, visas, and checklists in one place, and it even scores how move ready you are. Pick a country, see what's missing, and go.
I just located to Portugal and I refuse to lose documents in random folders again. Borderlessself keeps everything organized and shows me my relocation readiness step by step. If you're planning a move, use Borderlessself to compare countries and stay ready before the chaos hits.
So those are fun to create and really without much, strategic thinking, just really the broad concept using my website and ask them to come up with some UGC ads. I selected the UGC actors, and that's what we came up with. And I was able to run those on Reddit. So let me show you how we did across different channels. So in Reddit, I spent about $573. I got 70,000 impressions for 477 clicks. My average eCPM was $8.16. My average CPC was $1.20. And the average click-through rate was 0.67. So if I'm going to kind of work backwards, click-through rate, now I know, okay, I can optimize, given the amount of time that I spent creating the ads, which was literally like 5 minutes. I have a baseline and know that, okay, I can optimize the creative. And then the cost per click for me, this is on the high end, but gives me a good baseline because it's going to have to be down from there. But I know what I'm working with. And they also give you some interesting insights in terms of what channels, what communities, I should say. So, interests, travel, geography, news and education, business and finance, which is around what I would expect for my target audience. And then these are the communities that I actually had asked, Reddit to target. There were some new communities that I did not, like this hygiene community, beauty and grooming, confession, poverty finance. Those were not on my target list, but it's what the algorithm selected. These are the country. Most of my audience came from the U.S., and these are the results by state and city. This is for reach, but if we look at clicks, and really what I'm interested in is here, like what are the communities where I was getting the highest clicks. So these top three are ones that I had asked specifically Reddit to target in, because it is these are the communities where people are actively asking questions about relocating to different countries. So a lot of what I expected, but my goal was to get a sense of, okay, what's the average CPC on Reddit going to be? Then another channel that I ran on was on OpenAI. And let me just pause here for a second. So in one of my earlier videos, I mentioned why I had set up as a business in the US. And one of the reasons was early access to tech. I'm based in Dubai. My company's based is now registered in 3 different countries for different reasons, but one of those reasons is getting early access to tech. And so OpenAI has been running ads has built an ad platform in ChatGPT, but it's only open to US businesses. And so hence why it's good to have a business registered in the US, so I can experiment and understand what the platform, what they're building and how it works. It is very, very minimal right now. It is not a sophisticated platform. There's not a lot of targeting capabilities built in. But let me just share with you what the results were. So I spent about $146. The click-through rate was 0.70. So as compared to, well, it's about the same range as what I was getting on Reddit. However, the cost per click was almost double, so $2.47 versus the $1.20 on Reddit. But I get a lot more granularity on Reddit in terms of what communities and targeting, etc. The average CPM was, so this is cost per 1,000 impressions, was $17.20. And it was a very simple ad. Should you leave America? Compare countries, organize documents, visit borderlessself.com. Very simple ad. It's a basic, it's kind of like a Google text ad with a small allowance for an image. The next channel that I ran on was Google itself. And here I'm running on my Dubai-based account. I spent about a total of, actually, let me change the date range. No, yeah, this is the right date range. Spent about 432 dirhams, and my average cost per click was 0.51, which is about 14 cents in terms of dollars. So really good CPC, as you'd expect on Google. Much more sophisticated capabilities in terms of targeting. Here, what I was actually doing was running ads on specific channels. So specific channels that I had identified, knowing that my audience watches those channels. And so remember, I am the target audience. So let me see if I can show you. So yeah, so channels like Expats Everywhere, Passport Heavy, Ashley in Africa, Savvy Expat, Expat American, Relocated. These are channels, and I was running those UGC ads, and you can see that the the CPV is about 0.20 dirhams. The next channel I was running on, it's actually surprised me. Let me just stop here for a second. So LinkedIn is, historically, when I've worked in the B2B space, which is where I've spent, I would say, maybe the last 10, 15 years, it's always interesting because you'd expect LinkedIn to be a good channel for that, but it's always been very expensive. However, I was surprised to find that it actually was one of the lowest cost channels out of the ones I've tested. So I haven't tested Meta yet. More on that because that I'm actually putting some strategic thinking into the creative around. But let me just share with you the LinkedIn results. So essentially, these were boosted posts, and from a company channel and or from my personal channel, and spent about $140, and the um, the average CPC was about 4 cents, which was very interesting. So you can see the reach numbers here for two of the posts. You can see the cost per result and the average cost per click. So in total, I spent about $280 and got about 6,000 clicks. So here is the ad, the LinkedIn ad. Let me just move this, which is essentially a carousel talking about geographic arbitrage. You can see the branding is actually starting to come together. And this was a boost of an article that I had written. A high salary can still leave you financially trapped. This is why you want to be a borderless self. So that is 4 channels: Reddit, ChatGPT, Google, and LinkedIn that I have done some experimentation in. And the range of CPC, as you saw, was 3 cents to as high as $2.47. So, in terms of CPC, I was getting a low CPC on LinkedIn. However, remember, on LinkedIn, I was driving people to stay within the LinkedIn environment. And so it's likely going to be another maybe 10 or 20 cents to drive a user to a download or my landing page. But it gives me a good sense of what the range is. On Reddit, the communities that I expected to engage did. On OpenAI, just being able to see what is the level of sophistication in terms of targeting available. It was the most expensive channel. It's also the least interesting ad format. It's essentially a text ad. Feels very much old school, like 1990s Google text ads. And then Google performed as I would expect it, a good CPC because you are getting high intent users. But it was very interesting for me to test YouTube, like targeting placements on specific YouTube channels that align with this audience. This audience is actually quite identifiable, which I'm super excited about as a marketer. Um, a lot of my hypotheses in terms of the people that watch these channels is correct, because I'm one of those people. I am the target audience. Um, the other thing that's quite useful in focusing on just the top of the funnel to start is you can set up your retargeting infrastructure, because you're just focused on driving clicks and getting some insights from people that will click on your ads. But you can start to build your retargeting pool. And so that was another objective. And then just test the infrastructure without spending a lot of money. So in all, I would say probably about $700 or $800 spent, to get some insights around, what's the average CPC I'm looking at, and I can start to build my intelligence around what it's going to cost to drive acquisition, what it's going to cost ultimately to drive conversions and revenue. And so that is that. How are you guys doing? Those of you who are building out there, what are you finding are the best ad channels? How is it working out for you? Share in the comments. See you in the next one.